Last time I logged out with only a few laps to go until I hit a new agility level. Today I started by finishing that up. And at this point I just needed one more lap, but then I fell at the last jump. So another time around the roofs, and finally I was 56 agility. I was thinking about trying to do Enlightened Journey next. By reading the wiki I was pretty sure that I actually needed to plant the willow tree and grow it myself. I stopped by Spree on the way through Draenor to get a new Slayer task. Only 2 episodes ago I had that agonising Ghost Slayer task that I arranged, and that's exactly what she wanted me to do again, but this time it was only 23 instead of 32. I really don't want to go back there right now though, so I continued on starting the Enlightened Journey quest. I made my way over to the gardening shop because I've actually not done any farming before. I had to grab a watering can, some filled plant pots, and a gardening trowel for planting the seed. I popped the willow seed that I luckily already had from Wintertodd into a plant pot, filled up the watering can at the sink, and then I started spiralling here about how I needed willow branches to be able to make a basket to ensure that my willow tree grew, but to be able to get willow branches I needed to make the basket, which I needed the tree for. But after a bit more time spent reading the wiki I realised that the shop I was at literally sold them. I must have completely overlooked that, so I went back and got a full pack of them. Then I checked that I could actually plant the willow tree, which I probably should have done first, but luckily I actually did have the level for it. But what I didn't have was apples to fill up the basket. But thankfully that was just because I spelt it wrong. I did actually have apples, cooking apples anyway, and after another check of the wiki, that's apparently okay. So I filled up the basket, got Aggie here to make me some red and yellow dye, and then I realised that I didn't actually own a rake. So back to the garden shop and a rake purchase later, I was on my way to the Lumbridge tree patch. I raked it, planted my seed, and paid with a basket of apples that I had, and now I needed to wait for that to grow. I got what I needed to continue on the quest, well, what I had in my bank at least. I had to make a third flipping stop at the shop for a sack, and a stop in Artie for some silk, and another one for papyrus and woolly balls, and a stop in Unil for potatoes. And now I could finally do the first step, where I had to go to Entrana. I wasn't allowed any weapons or armour here, so I took off everything that I thought I needed to, but I still wasn't allowed on the boat. Apparently I had to bank the Artie cape too, and that cape is literally like a safety blanket for me right now, so I didn't want to do that. But with it off, I was able to make my way on to Entrana, where I started the quest. Me and this guy launched a wee balloon off together, but it didn't end well. So we tried again, and this time it was attacked by a load of pitchforkers. Then he wanted more sandbags from me. So I filled my sacks up and handed them over. And this was the part where I needed my willow branches, but that was going to take hours for it to grow. So I decided to finish there for the night. And when I came back on the next day, I was excited for my willow branches to be done and get on with this quest. But if you haven't noticed already, I don't read very well because I actually had to go and check the tree before the branches that I needed even started to grow. So I checked the health of it and got a Hespori seed, which was a nice collection log pop-up, and then another wait began. It was going to take an hour for my willow branches to grow. I was able to do Tears of Gothic, so that's the first way I decided to waste some time. This time I got enough blue juice to up my prayer level to 24, which was a huge 2-level increase. Now I needed to figure out how to waste the rest of the hour. I decided to take a wee paddle up the river and head to Fossil Island to do a birdhouse run, but I completely forgot the logs this time. What was I saying recently about being professional at this? I guess I'm not as good at the birdhouse runs as I thought. A quick bank stop later and I was on my way around the island, and I hit 875 total levels and 25 hunter while I was here. Then I went back to Lumbridge to check how many branches I had. I was able to get 4 branches from the tree. Then I went to Draenor Manor to do that flippin' ghost task that I had. This time though I was just going to melee them because ranging them absolutely sucked. I was leveling up a lot here, which was nice. I hit 40 combat and 39 attack, finished my task of 23 ghosts, and then went back to the tree. I was able to get 4 more branches. Then I went to refresh my Slayer task. Next up was 48 lizards, which I didn't want to do right now. I spent some time hopping around in Draenor because my seeds for my birdhouse's stash was running low, and then I grabbed loads of food so that I could start the Corsair Curse quest. This man took me on a wee boat trip to a private island, but the people on here had all been cursed. Wee Colin here told me all the drama. He saw it all happen through his telescope apparently. Someone had fished up a demon doll, so I tried to bury it, but it ran back into the ocean, and then this ogre swam over to get it. But in the end it turned out that this guy was actually faking the curse the whole time, and I was going to expose him, so he attacked me. I tried to safe spot him, but ended up just tanking hits instead. And once he was dead, I spoke to the travel guide back on the boat and the quest was finished. I ran straight back to my willow tree and got enough branches this time to finish this quest. So I headed back to Entrana to continue on. We built a hot air balloon, then I guided it through some high-tech 2D puzzle screens and ended up in Taverley with the quest finished. And I got some drops of fire making, farming, crafting and woodcutting XP. But more importantly, now I can use the balloon transport system around Gilnor. I decided to continue questing for a while with Tribal Totem, so I spoke to someone in Brimhaven. This quest was pretty quick. I got teleported by this wizard in Artie, completed this lock puzzle, climbed up the stairs, but triggered a trapdoor and ended up in the sewers. Had to get teleported again and went up properly this time. Looted the chest for the tribal totem, returned it to the guy in Brimhaven, and that gave me 5 swordies and some thieving XP. Next up was Sleeping Giants. This quest would give me access to the Giants Foundry minigame. I grabbed wool from a sheep and then followed this blue line around the desert. This Kovac guy asked for my help making giant weapons and showed me around their factory. I basically ran around this place like a headless chicken for a while, trying to figure out what way I was meant to make a sword, and I kept messing it up. It really was not enjoyable, and I thought that the UI here sucked, which made it even worse. But once I'd finished it, I hit 35 smithing, and I don't know if I'll ever actually go back there because that minigame was horrible. I went to speak to Gerald to start the Making History quest next. I dug up an enchanted chest, used a key on it, went to Relica for the first time and spoke to a few people there, then headed to Port Phasmatas where I had to grab some slime and chicken, then worship at this fountain thing, and now I could enter here and talk to the ghosts. Then I headed back to Gerald to finish the quest with 1000 prayer and craft an XP. And at this point I don't know how many quests I'd done, but it felt like a lot, so that's where I ended for the night.